How's it going, guys? It's the Pixelate Pumpkin, and in today's video, we are back looking at some of the worst Halloween animatronic ripoffs ever created. This year, companies like Sunstar and other cheap retailers are back trying to rip off our beloved Halloween animatronics, and this year, not a single company was safe from being ripped off. Spirit Halloween, Home Depot, you name it, they've ripped it off. And this year, I'll be looking at all of them. They even ripped off some beloved movie characters, which they're getting really ballsy because, let me tell you, these movie studios are not big fans when other people use their IP without permissions. Things are getting pretty crazy this year. Anyways, we have so much to look at, and there's even a ripoff from a Spirit Halloween animatronic made this year. That's right, they're getting very, very quick at making these ripoffs. So without any more hesitation, let's dive right in and start looking at the monstrosities that they've created.
Here's the real thing, the Wizard from Home Depot Halloween 2022, a really interesting and very unique prop. And here is the ripoff, and this thing is butt ugly. They were absolutely ripping off the Wizard here for sure, as the color of the cloak matches up, and of course the beard and even the crystal ball he holds all matches up here, so it is for sure a ripoff, and this thing looks, again, just horrendous. I'll start off with the face. That is literally the same face mold they've been using on every witch animatronic. Well, I guess a wizard really is kind of the male version of a witch, but it still looks terrible here, and it does not fit at all. That green face is so ugly looking, not scary, and just very dumb looking. The body is all disproportionate, the head is way too big compared to the hands, and he has skeleton hands for some reason. He's supposed to be a wizard, not an undead zombie wizard. How does that make any sense? None. That's how much it makes. And of course, the crystal ball he's holding looks like crap as well. It is literally just a plastic ball with one little LED stuck inside. And the clothing too, don't get me started. It is just made out of the cheapest quality material. But I will give them this, they got it pretty accurately to the prop. Of course, way cheaper materials, and definitely nowhere near as well made. But it does look pretty similar, so I'll give some credit where credit is due. But of course, that's a part of ripping off the prop. They couldn't come up with anything original, of course. So this thing just looks terrible. One of the worst for sure. It is just so stupid. And of course, as you see, the animation is literally just a shaking motion instead of something that would make sense. Of course, it just shakes around like a moron, and it is so terrible. This thing really does suck. And the Wizard, the original one, the non-ripoff, is so cool. So it sucks to see that such a cool prop and a pretty obscure and underrated prop is getting ripped off like this, not even giving the original prop a chance to shine. Here's the real thing. Yes, it's not even animatronic, it is just straight up the movie character Pennywise from the original It miniseries. And here's the ripoff. That's right, they're literally straight up ripping off movie characters now so shamelessly that I'm surprised they haven't even got sued yet. This thing is pretty much an exact copy of the Pennywise design, but it looks like complete garbage. Of course, it looks pretty similar. They even got the clothing down pretty well here, which I'll give them credit for, but the face on this one is just the same clown mold they reuse over and over again, and it looks terrible. And it is super cheap looking. Again, with the skeleton hands as well. Why do they put skeleton hands on everything? It does not make any sense at all. And this one is definitely one of the more egregiously bad ones. It is a super cheap hanging prop that looks like crap, and it completely craps all over the original Pennywise design for sure, having no respect for the people that went into the makeup department there, making such a cool and awesome and very scary clown. This thing looks like complete garbage, and it is a shame it even exists. This thing is just terrible. And again, it is very risky for them to be ripping off movie characters like this. I'm kinda hoping they get sued for this one. Here's the real thing, one of the better clowns of recent memory being Henry Hustle from Spirit Halloween 2021, and here is the ripoff. And wait a minute, this thing actually isn't all that bad. Of course it is ripping off, which is a sin that cannot be forgiven, and it does a pretty accurate job though, and it actually doesn't look that awful. And hey, they even got the jump scare down, which is very impressive on Sunstar's part, so this one actually isn't awful, and considering the extremely high prices of Spirit Halloween props, this might be a better, cheaper alternative. So you might be surprised to see that I'm not absolutely dumping on this one, but they did a good job. But that's not to say that thing is perfect. It is far from it, and of course the real one is much better. For one, you have, of course, the terrible looking clown faces here. Well, you only even have one clown face. They couldn't even get the other face to be a clown as well. It's just a generic looking zombie guy. And of course the clown on top is just a very generic and overused ripoff's clown mold. And why is he holding up one finger like he's about to say, actually, right? He's supposed to be holding cards in that hand too. So of course they couldn't get that animation down or working properly, but hey, the jump scare's enough for them, let's be real. And the cards in the other hand look good, but you can't even see him with the way he's holding them. It looks like crap. And of course the body here is very, very disproportionate too. The heads are not the right size compared to the arms, and the legs are way too long on this guy. So yeah, this thing definitely has a lot of problems, but it still is pretty crazy to see they actually managed to pull off a jump scare, let alone a pretty difficult jump scare to pull off, like the two-head thing. Like, that's very surprising that Sunstar was able to copy that, so I will give credit where credit is due.
Here's the real thing, Sam from Trick or Treat without the sack on his head. And while this, yes, may be the Spirit Halloween animatronic, this is just meant for the Sam character in general. And here is the ripoff. And oh man, this is another terrible one right here for sure. This thing is super, super ugly looking, not scary at all, and just kind of weird in general. I mean, what is this even supposed to be? Obviously a Sam ripoff, but other than that, like, what is this thing? The pumpkin head on this looked horrendous, and that's putting it lightly for sure. This thing is super gross and weird looking. I mean, the color is all off. And what's even supposed to be the face on there? Is it like a skull or something? It just looks like a big-headed, ugly alien that just looks terrible. Not even a good alien. I mean, this thing just looks so stupid. The body as well, of course, is kind of going for the same colors as Sam there, and it just looks terrible. It's literally just a sheet of cloth. It looks so, so stupid. Why does he have hay sticking out of his arms? If you're going to rip off Sam, you may as well put the fingerless gloves on there, but they couldn't even be bothered to do that. This one is super, super awful. I don't have that much to say about it. Just the face on this one is so, so ugly looking and so, so terrible. Poor little Sam had to be turned into this ugly ass thing. What even is this trash?
Here's the real thing, and yes, that is the 12-foot skeleton from Home Depot Halloween 2020, and believe it or not, here is the ripoff. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they actually managed to do it. They ripped off the 12-foot skeleton. And this image comes straight from the Sunstar catalog, so you know this is for real. And this thing looks terrible. I mean, you could literally see the poles going through its pelvis here. They did not even try with this one. It's fully posable, which is honestly more than the 12-foot skeleton does, and of course it's only 10 feet tall, which there have been other 10-foot tall skeletons, so I guess it's a bit of a reach calling this thing a true ripoff, because there's already been other people, other companies trying to capture the success of the 12-foot skeleton, but I think because Sunstar managed to pull this thing off, there has to be some element of them ripping something off here, because they do it so much. Anyways, this thing is definitely a crazy ripoff for sure. Just seeing this thing actually happen is just crazy to me, because I remember saying it would only be a matter of time before they actually rip off a 12-foot prop, and they finally did it with the skeleton here, trying to capture some of that 12-foot animatronic money for sure. This thing looks really crappy in my opinion, definitely not a good one, and I do not like it at all for sure. It is a very ugly looking skeleton and definitely not a good one, and I feel like, again, it's very disproportionate here. The ribcage on this thing is enormous compared to everything else on the body. The heads, arms, legs, they do not match up with the size of that ribcage there. It does not make sense. And then even the spinal cord too is way too thick. Why is that thing such a girthy spinal cord right there? That sounded weird. Anyways, this is a really, really bad ripoff, and I mean, hey, at least they managed to even pull this thing off in the first place, but I could definitely see this thing falling over and killing somebody with how cheaply it's probably made.
Here's the real thing, just good old Leatherface, and here are a few animatronics as well, as you could see, of Leatherface. They look really, really good. And here's the ripoff. This technically means we got 4 Leatherface animatronics this year. Can you believe that? Here's the 4th one right here, and this one is for sure the rut of the litter, because it is a complete ripoff of the classic chainsaw-wielding maniac. Leatherface, and this thing looks terrible. Let's start with the chainsaw itself. What is that thing? Is that a chainsaw for 5-year-olds to use? I don't think I've seen a smaller chainsaw in my life. What are you even supposed to cut with that thing? And he isn't even holding it properly. It's just zip tied to his hand. That is so stupid looking. And speaking of hands, why is he holding a severed hand in his hand? That looks like complete crap as well. And again, he's not even holding on to it properly. And now for the Leatherface in Leatherface. They couldn't even be bothered to come up with a new face mold for this guy. They just threw another zombie face mold onto this body and they called it a day. That is horrendous looking. So garbage and so trash, especially that orange hair. What's going on with that there? And then of course you have his clothing, which you got the classic tie that Leatherface wears, and even the apron, lacking any blood though, so that's not too good. Again, really bad stuff here, and it is an egregious ripoff of such a classic movie character, and it's kind of crazy to think that this is really the 4th Leatherface animatronic this year. That is crazy. We got 4 Leatherface animatronics. Well, 3 if you're counting the officially licensed ones, but you know, there's always room for ripoffs, and here it is. So bad, so ugly. So whatever company owns the rights to Leatherface, please sue Sunstar, because this is an absolute atrocity to my eyes. Here's the real thing, Gordo from Spirit Halloween 2023. Wait, that cannot be right. How could there be a ripoff of an animatronic made this year? How did they get that quick? There's no possible way. Oh my god. No way. They actually did it. They ripped off an animatronic the same year it came out. Now that is truly unprecedented. Astonishing even. How are they getting so fast at ripping these things off? I mean, it's insane. They're basically making a profession out of it at this point. And, oh yes.
What the hell is this thing? I mean, seriously, they ripped off everything that could be ripped off here. They somehow got the exact molds and shrunk them down. I mean, that is literally illegal. That is straight up copyright infringement on the 10th degree there. I mean, whatever random Chinese warehouse did this is getting sued up the wazoo by Spirit for this one. I mean, this is the first time we've actually seen not a recreation of the mold, but a straight up carbon copy. And it is crazy that this thing is openly being sold on Amazon right now for like 40 bucks. And do not pay that. It is not worth that at all. It is a cheap little hunk of crap. Do not buy this thing. It is terrible. Just listen to the audio. What is this even supposed to be?
I'm coming for you. I see you.
What the f even is that? This is possibly the most impressive and most egregious ripoff of all time. I mean, they literally managed to copy Gordo straight up, minus the jump scare, of course. It just has that crappy rising up and down motion. And literally, instead of pumping guts, it's straight up cloth. Like, what are they doing there? It looks terrible. Looks like his mouth is filled with chewing gum or something. Orange chewing gum. I mean, seriously, this thing is terrible. It looks like a little ball you could pick up and throw at somebody. It is so stupid looking. It honestly looks like Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs. But yeah, this thing is so terrible and so egregious as well. I mean, again, they literally copied the mold straight up. That is hilarious and also angering at the same time.
And possibly the worst thing about this one is that they're scamming people with it. They're claiming this is the actual Gordo animatronic from Spirit Halloween, and when they order it and arrives, they get met with this piece of crap. So please do not order this on Amazon and leave bad comments on any Amazon listings for this to make sure that people don't buy something they're not expecting. So that is definitely one of the worst things about this one, is because people are getting scammed by it too. Just terrible, just horrible, and just over egregiously awful. This thing is so terrible. Do not buy it. And yeah, this has to be one of the worst ripoffs of all time, but also, again, one of the most impressive, because how are they able to get this done in the same year it came out? That is amazing to me. Well, everybody, it's been quite the journey, but that is it for the Halloween 2023 animatronic ripoffs. I really hope you guys enjoyed another iteration of this series. Typically, I do 2 a year, but this year I scaled it back to 1 because there wasn't that many, but the ones they ripped off were really, really bad looking, so this was definitely a good year for the ripoffs for sure. The worst one of the year, I would have to say, is probably the Gordo ripoff, just because it's scamming people. I mean, to be honest, they did a good job at recreating it because they literally straight up stole the face molds for it, so obviously it's gonna look pretty decent, but other than that, it is just horrendous. And the best one would probably have to be the Henry Hustle ripoff. Again, I do not condone it because it is a ripoff, but they did manage to actually recreate the prop pretty well without, you know, straight up ripping off the face molds again. Anyways, that is gonna be it for this year's iteration, like I've already said. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for supporting the series so much over the years. It has definitely become the fan favorite of the channel, so I thank you guys a lot for that. So with that, be sure to like and subscribe, and remember, nobody outpixelates the pumpkin.